Sorry, I just have to do some stuff here. One moment.
Davant un segon que fer un parell de coses.
Okay, now it should work. My hard drive space was so low, and then Zoom is normally super slow. Anyway, let's start with the prayers, and good to see you again.
S'alegra veure'ns i diu que comencem amb les oracions.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I took refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. May they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering, and may they dwell in the boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. May they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. So, welcome back everyone. Feels like a long time, sort of.
Benvinguts de nou a tots i a totes, i diu que sembla que faci molt de temps que ens hem vist per últim cop.
And thank you, Oscar, for translating again. So, where are we? In Shantideva's masterpiece, Bodhicaryavatara, and within that in the 8th chapter.
Ja estem tractant l'obra mestra de Shantideva, el Bodhicaryavatara, i dins d'això el capítol 8.
And that 8th chapter has, let's say, like 4 main topics.
I aquest 8è capítol té 4 temes centrals, diguem.
First, like introduction or summary of meditation, and then second, finding the conducive conditions for meditation. And there we discussed about the physical isolation and the mental isolation.
I dintre d'aquests hi ha la introducció o el resum del que és la meditació. Després hi ha la segona part que tracta de les condicions favorables per la meditació. I aquí hem parlat de les condicions tant físiques com l'aïllament mental com l'aïllament físic.
And then the third part is then really meditation on bodhicitta. And then part number 4, which is very short, is like some advice on shamatha practice.
I la tercera part és sobre la meditació en la bodhicitta, i la quarta, que és una part que és molt curta, són alguns consells per samatha.
And I'm sure you know, like when we say here meditate on relative bodhicitta, then in this context of chapter 8, that is, sorry, I gave it away. So when we talk here about meditating on bodhicitta, then here it means relative bodhicitta, because that is meant here in the chapter number 8, because in chapter number 9, then there will be meditation on absolute bodhicitta.
I quan aquí diu meditar en la bodhicitta, es refereix a la bodhicitta relativa, perquè en el capítol 8 el que es tracta és la bodhicitta relativa, ja que en el 9 es tractarà la bodhicitta absoluta.
And so here this relative bodhicitta, in order to practice that, it needs some analytical meditation that should go beforehand.
I per practicar aquesta bodhicitta relativa hem de fer primer una mica de meditació analítica.
And it is, of course, based on the understanding that we are all totally same in the sense that we all want happiness and that we want to avoid suffering.
Això es basa en entendre que tots som el mateix, en el sentit que tots busquem la felicitat i tots busquem evitar el patiment.
But the tragedy is that usually we don't know the causes for happiness and we don't identify the causes for suffering. Therefore, it all gets mixed up and we accumulate causes for suffering, and therefore we experience the suffering even though we want happiness.
I la tragèdia aquí és que normalment no sabem el que causa la felicitat i el patiment, així que tot es barreja una miqueta i acabem acumulant causes pel patiment, de manera que experimentem patiment encara que de primeres busquéssim la felicitat.
So that's a little bit like an autoimmune disease, like we are like attacking ourselves involuntarily and getting sick and suffering because of that.
I diu que és com si fos una malaltia autoimmune, que en cert sentit ens estem atacant a nosaltres mateixos i fent que emmalaltim.
And then, based on that, we need to analyze and understand the faults of self-cherishing. So if we are only like focusing on our own benefit.
I basats en això hem d'analitzar i entendre les faltes de l'aferrament a nosaltres mateixos i sí, entendre les faltes d'això.
I think that is also said in the third line of parting from the four attachments, right? If you have self-cherishing, you don't have bodhicitta, or if you only think of your own benefit, you don't have bodhicitta. So that whatever is said there in the commentaries is good to contemplate upon before we then practice bodhicitta.
I això diu que també és més o menys el que es diu a la tercera línia del separar-se dels quatre aferraments, on diu que si tenim aquest aferrament a nosaltres mateixos o busquem el nostre propi benefici, no tenim bodhicitta. I el que diu exactament aquí estaria bé com contemplar-ho i és necessari contemplar-ho abans de practicar la bodhicitta.
And then, we can then focus, then we should also analyze or understand or contemplate on the opposite, which is like the benefits of cherishing others.
I llavors hauríem d'analitzar o contemplar l'oposat, que és els beneficis de buscar el benefici dels altres o cuidar-los.
And also it helps, of course, to understand or contemplate on Buddha nature and all the enlightened qualities. And for that, of course, Uttara Tantra Shastra is the best text.
I també ajuda a contemplar sobre la naturalesa búdica o les qualitats de la il·luminació i per això l'Uttara Tantra Shastra és un dels millors textos.
And so that is then what we do once we have done these contemplations and once we have found a nice place in solitude. And that is encapsulated in verse 89.
Crec que això és el que fem un cop hem fet aquestes contemplacions i hem trobat un lloc on puguem estar en solitud, que és el que es diu en el vers 89.
Where it says, that now that we have contemplated on the greatness of living in solitude, then we should work on overcoming our negative emotions and cultivate bodhicitta.
I diu que ara que hem contemplat sobre les grans qualitats del fet de viure en solitud, és quan hauríem de treballar en superar les emocions negatives i cultivar la bodhicitta.
And then how is Shantideva suggesting us how we should practice bodhicitta? Then there are like two main practices, which is equalizing ourselves with others and then also exchanging ourselves with others.
Llavors, com suggereix Shantideva que practiquem la bodhicitta, en aquest sentit hi ha dues pràctiques principals. L'una, veure la igualtat entre nosaltres i els altres, i l'altra, intercanviar-nos nosaltres per l'altre.
And so we do the first one first, of course, which is like verse 90 to 110.
Llavors farem la primera primer, evidentment, que són els versos 90 al 110.
And that is equalizing self and others. So that means we really understand what I mentioned earlier, that we all want the same. We all want happiness and we all want to be free from suffering.
I aquí el que tractem és aquesta igualtat entre nosaltres i els altres, que es basa en aquest aspecte que ja hem comentat, que és que tots volem el mateix, volem felicitat i volem estar lliures de patiment.
And also we are totally same that we all have Buddha nature, so we are so same in so many things, just our obscurations or habits maybe make us different.
I, clar, evidentment també tots tenim la naturalesa búdica i, per tant, som extremadament similars en moltes coses. Són només els nostres obscuriments i els hàbits que ens fan diferents.
But yeah, basically we are all same because we all want happiness and avoid suffering. And therefore, just as I want to be happy and I want to avoid suffering, I know others want that too. And so therefore I want to protect them from their suffering and I want to bring them into happiness.
I de la mateixa manera que sabem que nosaltres volem la felicitat i volem evitar el patiment, també sabem que els altres volen exactament el mateix i, per tant, és natural que els vulguem protegir del patiment i vulguem portar-los a la felicitat.
And we might think that is not possible because I'm here and they are there. And then Shantideva is bringing already some glimpses of the 9th chapter.
I podríem pensar que això és possible perquè jo estic aquí i ells estan allà i aquí és quan Shantideva aporta coses que venen del capítol 9.
Like, yeah, that these are just labels, I and others, and they're just labels or designation, but there's no ultimate ground for that separation or differentiation. So that is what I meant, that is from the 9th chapter, like the wisdom of non-duality is a little bit introduced here already.
Llavors, en el sentit que tot això són només etiquetes. El jo, altres, són designacions, no són una base última perquè hi hagi una veritable separació o diferenciació. I és en aquest sentit que volia dir que portava una cosa que venia del capítol 9, que és la saviesa de la no dualitat que aquí està operant.
Yeah, and like we have learned or acquired the idea that I'm here, that is me, we can sort of, also acquire or learn the idea that others are also me, that we are like, that we don't, on a relative level even, that we don't differentiate that too much.
I de la mateixa manera que hem après o hem adquirit aquesta idea de que jo estic aquí, o fins i tot la idea mateixa del jo, també podem aprendre que els altres també som nosaltres, que en aquesta realitat relativa realment no hi ha diferència.
Yeah, and Shantideva in verse 91 is sort of comparing us and all beings, like showing that we are all interdependent, like maybe different body parts, my hand and my feet, they look very far away, and they look other, but sort of it's one body,
Llavors, en el vers 91 ens compara a nosaltres i a tots els éssers, mostrant que som interdependents, que som simplement, és com si fóssim parts del cos, diferents parts del cos, i que una mà i un peu poden estar molt separats, però en realitat són parts del mateix cos.
And therefore, he's urging us not to differentiate too much between them and us, or their suffering and our suffering, but just suffering in general, and that needs to be eliminated, of course.
I llavors el que ens anima a fer és a no diferenciar gaire entre nosaltres i ells, o el nostre patiment i el seu patiment, sinó en pensar que el patiment en general és allò que ha de ser erradicat, evidentment.
So, yeah, and therefore, if we see the interdependence of others and ourselves or everyone, then yeah, or if we perceive them as I also, then yeah, we cannot tolerate that they are suffering, and we want to do something against it.
I llavors, si veiem realment aquesta interdependència entre els altres i nosaltres mateixos, si els percebem una mica com si fossin nosaltres, llavors no podem tolerar que estiguin patint i, naturalment, volem fer alguna cosa al respecte.
And yeah, it's like a loving mother, you know, who's really getting sick. If the child is getting sick, it's so unbearable for her, you know, that somebody else or that her beloved child is suffering. And likewise, we all should be like these loving mothers with everyone.
I llavors és com una mare benevolent, una mare que estima, que es posa malalta si el seu fill o filla es posen malalts. És tan insuportable per ella i llavors proposa que hauríem de ser tots com aquestes mares benevolents.
And in verse 95, Shantideva is also asking, if we are all same and we all want happiness and avoid suffering, what is so special about myself? Why do I only wish for my own happiness?
Llavors, en el vers 95, Shantideva també pregunta si tots som iguals, què és tan especial respecte al la meva pròpia felicitat o al meu propi patiment?
And again, when we look again more from the absolute point of view, you know, then there is no truly existent I and truly existent other. So therefore, it's just suffering that is experienced, and there's not a real owner or possessor of that suffering.
Llavors, si ho mirem de manera una mica més abstracta, veiem que no hi ha cap jo que existeixi inherentment o no hi ha cap altre que existeixi inherentment. Simplement hi ha patiment que és experimentat. No hi ha algú que posseeixi aquest patiment.
And I think I mentioned that before, and that is explicitly said in 102. Therefore, we should just remove suffering because it is painful. It doesn't matter who is the owner, because there is no real owner anyway, no? Because there is no I or others.
Llavors això és més explícit en el vers 102, en què diu que simplement el que hem de fer és és eliminar el patiment perquè és dolorós. No poc importa qui el posseix o de qui és propietat, i de fet no hi ha realment algú que sigui propietari, simplement aquest patiment que està allà.
And then, like in 103, there's like an extra clever opponent who's saying, okay, but if there is no I or you, then there is also no suffering, which is true on the absolute level.
Llavors, ja en el vers 103 hi ha un oponent extremadament intel·ligent que diu, però si no hi ha ni jo ni tu, llavors tampoc hi ha patiment, cosa que és cert.
But as I said, that argument is correct on the absolute level, but on the relative level, it's sort of obvious that we only care about our suffering and not so much about the others' suffering.
I aquest argument és correcte de forma en allò absolut, però a nivell relatiu és obvi que a nosaltres només ens importa el nostre patiment i no tant el dels altres.
So in other words, Shantideva is saying there in verse 103, if you say, suffering is not truly existent, then don't try to remove your own suffering, basically.
I en altres paraules, el que Shantideva diu és que si dius que el patiment no existeix de forma inherent, llavors no intentis tampoc erradicar el teu propi patiment.
But then, I think all of us, we then have to agree, yes, that's true. We are trying to remove our own suffering, and if we do that, even though suffering is not truly existent, then we should also work on removing the suffering of others.
I llavors el que hauríem d'estar d'acord és que tots estem intentant erradicar el nostre propi patiment, així que encara que el patiment no tingui existència inherent, sí que té sentit ajudar els altres a que duguin a terme aquesta tasca que eliminin el seu propi patiment.
Even though when we are dreaming, it's just a dream, but still a nightmare is sort of a lot of suffering. So even though it is just a dream, it still has an impact on us.
I podríem dir de manera similar que quan estem somiant, encara que sigui només un somni, un malson ens genera patiment i, per tant, voldrem que no passi aquest malson.
And sorry, I have to say that because I recently just saw it in a text by Vasubandhu. The opposite is also the case. Even if it's just a dream, it can also have a positive effect on us. So we could have wet dreams, you know? Vasubandhu is saying that in first number 4 of his 20 stanzas.
I diu, perdó, perquè ho ha de dir, perquè ho acaba de llegir en un text de Vasubandhu, però que diu que l'oposat també pot ser. És a dir, que tinguem somnis que ens agradin, com somnis eròtics, que això podria passar i podria ser agradable.
So my point is only, yes, it's true, suffering is not truly existent, but nevertheless, we are also living on the relative world, and that is maybe our main home in the relative world at the moment. So therefore, I don't want to suffer, you don't want to suffer, so therefore, I should really not only strive to remove my suffering, but also yours.
Llavors això el que ens ensenya és que el patiment no té existència inherent, però al mateix temps estem vivint en el món relatiu. Aquest és com la nostra llar de base. I per tant, i com no volem patir, no només hem de fer esforços per erradicar el nostre patiment, sinó també el dels altres.
And in verse 105, Shantideva is even saying, yes, if one Bodhisattva can understand a situation and is seeing that if he or she is taking the suffering on him or herself, and by that eliminating the suffering of many people, then a Bodhisattva is even joyfully doing it, you know, with courage.
En el vers 105 el que diu és que sí, que si un bodhisattva pot entendre la situació i veure que si pren sobre ell o ella aquest patiment pot eliminar el patiment de molts altres éssers, llavors el bodhisattva ho fa de manera alegre.
And in 107 it is even like more drastically explained that bodhisattvas, because of their love and compassion to others, they are even happy to jump into the deepest hell, you know, to help beings there.
I llavors al vers, l'estrofa 107, s'explica de manera fins i tot més dràstica, i és que, ja que els bodhisattvas, gràcies a l'amor i a la compassió, estan contents fins i tot, els posa contents fins i tot de saltar en el més profund dels inferns, si beneficia els altres.
And yeah, Bodhisattva would even do that like happily and stylishly, like and the example here in 107 is like a wild goose plunging into a lotus pool, you know, because it's their home. So therefore, like without hesitation, they plunge in there. Yes, sounds so German, plungen.
I diu que un bodhisattva faria això de manera contenta i amb estil, fins i tot. I l'exemple aquí és un cigne que entra en un llac de lotus.
For Khyentse Rinpoche, that is sort of important, that it's a wild goose, who has some style, when jumping, or when not jumping actually, but like entering a lake, like the Bodhisattvas, with style, enter the deepest hell to help sentient beings. He thinks the style part is important. It's not like a frog, who's like just jumping there, like clumsily.
I per Khyentse Rinpoche és important que sigui un signe, perquè implica que té un cert estil i això troba que és bastant important, que no és només simplement com una granota que salta dins del llac, sinó que és una cosa realment estilosa.
But I think that is a whole other teaching, why I think for him that is important. But he always describes bodhisattvas that their conduct is the union of elegance and outrageousness, sort of. And I think here the elegance for him is important in this context.
I això, clar, és tota una ensenyança en si, però ell sovint descriu bodhisattvas per qui les qualitats més importants són l'estil, un estil, i aquesta intolerància, diguem, cap al patiment.
And then 110 is the summary of this equalizing oneself and others.
I el vers 110 és el resum d'aquesta pràctica d'igualar-se entre un mateix i els altres.
So it says here, therefore, just as I protect myself from unpleasant things, however small.
I diu aquí, de la mateixa manera que em protegeixo a mi mateix d'altres coses, siguin el petites que siguin.
Yeah, in the same way I should act towards others with a compassionate and caring mind.
De la mateixa manera hauria d'actuar envers els altres amb una ment compassiva i plena de cura. I curosa.
By the way, I'm using Stephen Batchelor's translation, which I think is the most simple and easiest one, even though I'm not his fan in terms of his view, but I'm his fan in terms of his translation.
I diu que està utilitzant la traducció de Stephen Batchelor, que diu que és que ell troba que és la més senzilla i fàcil, i encara que no sigui un fan de la seva visió, sí que és un fan de la seva traducció.
Yeah, that would be it regarding equalizing self and others, so that we just perceive suffering. It doesn't matter if it's in me or others, and we just want to get rid of it.
I això seria la base respecte a l'igualar-se entre un mateix i els altres. És simplement que percebem el patiment i volem desfer-nos-en.
And yeah, because we know that there's no ownership anyway of the suffering, so it doesn't matter who is suffering. It's just not right, sort of. It has to be eliminated.
Precisament perquè entenem que no hi ha propietat del patiment, que no importa qui és qui pateix, sinó que simplement ha de ser eliminat, erradicat.
And then we come to a big part of this 8th chapter. This is verse 111 to 184, and that is the exchange of self and other, 111 until 184.
I ara arribem a una part molt important d'aquest capítol, que són dels versos 111 al 184, i és l'intercanvi entre un mateix i els altres.
And yeah, we might wonder if that is really possible, that we can consider others as oneself, because we are so moody, or because they have another body, that is not our body. And so how could that be possible?
Llavors, el que ens preguntem potser és com pot ser que com podríem ser capaços de considerar els altres com nosaltres mateixos, perquè tenen tot un món emocional diferent, tenen un cos diferent, com podria ser?
And then sort of Shantideva's anatomic inclination shines through again. He is saying, like, look, you were born from another body, like the ovum and the sperm is totally from another body, but you manage to identify yourself with it, at some point.
Llavors, el Shantideva, la inclinació anatòmica de Shantideva torna a sorgir a la superfície i aquí fa l'argument que nosaltres mateixos vam néixer sent un altre cos, vam néixer d'un òvul i un esperma i finalment hem aconseguit d'alguna manera identificar-nos amb aquest cos que tenim ara.
Yeah, so we sort of managed that, that some cells of other people, we really owned it, like at some point we really think, oh, that is me. So therefore, why can't we do it now? Also through familiarization, we can also do it now with the body of others.
I llavors diu, si hem estat capaços de fer això, és a dir, que a través de, començant amb les cèl·lules d'altra gent, hem estat capaços de realment considerar-nos com propietaris d'aquest cos i realment pensem que som nosaltres, per què no podem fer-ho ara amb els cossos dels altres?
Yeah, and then he starts to explain like the general understanding of or way how we practice exchanging self and others.
I llavors comença a explicar la comprensió una mica més general de com hem de practicar la manera d'intercanviar-nos nosaltres mateixos i els altres.
And I think in English it is said, we put ourselves in the shoes of the other person, so that is, I think, a good expression for empathy,
I el que es diu en anglès és que ens posem a les sabates de l'altre i diu que això potser és una bona manera d'entendre l'empatia.
In German, we even say we put ourselves in the skin of somebody else. I don't know what you say in Catalan, but yeah, that is, I think, the same. Like really trying to see everything from his or her perspective and feeling what he or she is feeling.
I diu que fins i tot en alemany es diu que ens posem a la pell de l'altre, que no sap com ho diem en català, but we say it the same way, actually.
You also have the skin thing?
Yeah.
Cool.
Però que això el que vol dir és veure des de la seva perspectiva, sentir una mica el que l'altre està sentint.
And this, of course, we learned that from the chapter 7, we do that with enthusiasm and joy, and we don't do that with arrogance or with any expectations.
I això ho hem après del capítol 7. Fem això amb entusiasme i de manera joiosa, no amb arrogància ni amb expectatives.
Like that is, I'm referring to 116. So it's not like that we are self-congratulating ourselves, that, oh yes, I'm doing great things for others, I'm super empathetic and so on, so we should not feel superior if we help others, but we should be free of that, but full of joy.
I això ho veiem al vers 116, en què diem que no ens estem felicitant a nosaltres mateixos, no hem de pensar que estem fent grans coses pels altres, que estem sent extremadament empàtics i demés. No hem de sentir-nos superiors, sinó que simplement fer aquest intercanvi plens de manera contenta, de manera joiosa.
And yeah, his example is like when we eat, and feed ourselves, we should not make a too big kind of deal out of it, and expect any reward or medal for that, or congratulation or applause, it's just a natural thing to do. Likewise, we should help others, like in that natural way, or be empathetic with others in this natural way.
Llavors diu que quan mengem, quan ens estem alimentant, no hauríem de fer un gran què d'això, no hauríem d'estar esperant cap tipus de recompensa, cap tipus de felicitació o aplaudiment, simplement és un fet que és natural i ho fem així. I és de la mateixa manera que ho hauríem de fer amb aquest intercanvi amb els altres.
And of course, maybe in psychiatry or in kindergarten, it's different. Then sometimes it's a celebration, if the patient or the kid is eating. But I think we normally, when we eat, it's not a big deal, So let's so keep it as natural as that. That is what Shantideva is saying.
I potser en un psiquiàtric o en un parvulari és diferent i sí que celebrem quan algú menja, però nosaltres potser no cal que ho celebrem i està bé mantenir-ho així. Llavors, Shantideva diu que ho hauríem de mantenir de la mateixa manera com una cosa extremadament natural.
I guess his idea here is like one just eats because one is hungry, and as a Bodhisattva, one just lives because other people need help, that kind of thing. So it's a very natural thing for him, we just live to help others, that's it.
I llavors diu que normalment, de la mateixa manera que un menja quan té gana, segons Shantideva, el Bodhisattva viu senzillament perquè els altres necessiten ajuda. I hauria de ser una cosa així de natural.
And verse 117 is saying, do that even if it's super small suffering. Just protect others from even very teeny tiny suffering.
I l'estrofa 117 el que diu és feu això fins i tot si és un patiment extremadament petit, protegeix els altres del patiment fins i tot el més petit.
And he gives the example of Avalokiteshvara because he's also doing that even with small suffering, sort of, because he said, it's written in Avatamsaka Sutra, that if you recite my name 3 times, Avalokiteshvara is speaking now, then you will not have stage fright, for example,
I diu que Avalokiteshvara també està, de fet, fent això, i fins i tot en les coses extremadament petites. A l'Avatamsaka Sutra diu que si es recita el seu nom 4 cops, no tindrem fins i tot ni por de pujar a l'escenari.
And I think that is also true nowadays, like if we hear some names, it rings a certain bell in our mind, and some meaning or thing come into our mind.
I això té sentit fins i tot avui en dia, que sentim alguns noms i hi ha certes coses que ens venen al cap.
So I think if I say Mahatma Gandhi, maybe the bell of non-violence is ringing in our mind, immediately.
I, per exemple, si ell diu Mahatma Gandhi, hi ha una campana, la campaneta de la no violència, potser sona a les nostres ments. És curiós que passi això.
Or His Holiness the Dalai Lama, then maybe it rings like tolerance in our mind.
O potser s'ha sentat el Dalai Lama i fa sonar aquesta campaneta de la tolerància a la nostra ment.
And when we say Donald Trump, then another bell is ringing, I think. That shall not be named.
I fins i tot en el cas de Trump hi ha una campaneta que sona a la nostra ment, però potser aquesta no l'esmentarem.
Anyway, the point is, even like small things like stage fright, Avalokiteshvara is there, it is helping, because even teeny tiny suffering of a sentient being is too much for him to see.
I fins i tot en aquestes coses tan petites com és la por a pujar a un escenari, Avalokiteshvara diu que estarà allà pels éssers.
And therefore we should quickly sort of quickly, not in a rushed way, but like start now kind of way. We should practice this exchange of self and others. We put ourselves in others' shoes and also do Tonglen practice, which we can discuss later, because that is really helping them, but also us,
I, per tant, hauríem de practicar ràpidament aquest intercanvi entre nosaltres i els altres i posar-nos en la pell de l'altre o fer Tonglen, perquè realment això vol dir que els estarem ajudant no només a ells, sinó que també ens estarem ajudant a nosaltres.
Because it's helping us. Why? Because it is if we exchange ourselves with others, it is the exact opposite of how we usually think, like self-centeredly, and self-centeredness is what keeps us in samsara.
I això és perquè ajudar els altres és exactament l'oposat del com pensem de manera habitual, ja que el centrar-nos en nosaltres mateixos és el que ens manté a samsara.
Yeah, if we're like an archetype samsaric being, we only care about our own happiness and we don't care about others and don't care if they are suffering. That is sort of the archetype of a samsaric perspective.
Si haguéssim de descriure un arquetip de samsàric, podríem dir que és algú que només ens importa la nostra felicitat i que no ens importa el patiment dels altres. Aquest és com l'arquetip samsàric.
But here the exchange is the exact opposite, like we are focusing on their suffering and we don't care if we are happy or not, or if we are suffering or not. That is the archetype of a Bodhisattva or of an enlightened being.
Aquí l'intercanvi és exactament l'oposat d'això. És a dir, que ens estem enfocant el patiment de l'altre i no ens importa a nosaltres si nosaltres mateixes estem patint o no, estem feliços o no. Aquesta és la manera de fer d'un bodhisattva.
And Shantideva even lists some like more worldly reasons already why exchange is helpful for us even.
I llavors Shantideva parla d'algunes raons molt evidents de per què intercanviar-nos amb els altres fins i tot ens és útil a nosaltres mateixos.
Like if we are, he's saying in 121, yeah, if we are so attached to us and our body, we become super like hypersensitive again, with our body, very touchy, like this princess on a small pea,
I en el vers 121 diu, per exemple, que si estem massa aferrats al nostre propi cos, ens tornem extremadament sensibles o hipersensibles i tot ens molesta una mica, com la història de la princesa i el petit pèsol.
Or even like Shantideva, I don't know if you know his life story, but a big turning point in his life was, I think, the evening before he was supposed to be the king. His mother put in a warm bath for him and the water was too hot. And so he was suffering from that. He was too sensitive, too touchy, that the water was too hot.
I fins i tot com a Shantideva, com un moment molt important en la seva vida, when he was about to be... What?
He was about to be crowned as the king next day.
Okay. Estava a punt de ser coronat com a rei el dia següent i la seva mare li va oferir un bany i quan anava a banyar-se va veure que l'aigua estava molt calenta i el va molestar enormement que aquella aigua estigués tan cremant.
And then his mother saw him suffering with this too hot water sort of, and then she said, okay, if you can't be a king, if you can't even endure that heat, and that inspired him a lot, and he thought and dreamt about a lot of things over that night, and then he left and didn't become a king.
I llavors la seva mare, quan el va veure patir amb aquesta aigua que estava massa calenta, va dir, llavors segur que no pots ser rei, perquè si no pots aguantar aquesta escalfor, llavors no seràs capaç de ser rei. I això va inspirar Shantideva moltíssim. Aquella mateixa nit va pensar molt, va somiar molt i el dia següent va marxar i no va esdevenir rei.
Yeah, maybe his mother was a great bodhisattva, so she did it on purpose, to teach him that, because it really changed his whole career, basically.
I potser la seva mare era un gran bodhisattva i va fer aquest acte a propòsit per ensenyar-li això i perquè això realment va canviar tota la seva carrera, per dir-ho d'alguna manera.
And also Shantideva is saying in 122, if we have so much attachment to our body, we also do many negative actions, for example, killing for food and so on. So therefore, this exchange will help us to not have that much attachment to ourselves and therefore prevents us from doing negative actions.
I el vers 122 diu que precisament si tenim tant d'aferrament al nostre cos, això ens fa dur a terme moltes accions negatives, com per exemple matar per ser capaç de menjar. I que l'intercanvi en aquest sentit ens ajuda perquè ens impedeix d'alguna manera que duem a terme aquestes accions negatives.
And we might even kill our parents, he's saying, or we steal from the 3 jewels or the monasteries or the Dharma centers and so on.
I potser fins i tot acabem matant els nostres pares o robant de les 3 joies de centres de Dharma, monestirs, etc.
And therefore in 125 he's urging us to think the following.
I llavors el vers 125 ens convida o ens anima fortament a pensar el següent.
So usually we think, if I give this, what is left for me? What can I enjoy?
I normalment pensem, si dono això, llavors què em queda a mi? Què puc gaudir jo?
And he says we should rather think, if I enjoy this, what is left for me to give to others,
I diu que el que hauríem de pensar precisament és si jo gaudeixo això, què li queda als altres perquè gaudeixin?
And then we come to Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche's favorite stanzas, which is 128 to 130.
I llavors arribem a les estrofes preferides de Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche, que són la 128 fins a 130.
128 is a little bit complicated, but it's mainly about that we are interdependent, like the others and ourselves. And if we are really like helping others, that is actually great for us ourselves.
Llavors, en aquestes estrofes 128 a 130 són potser una mica complicades, però bàsicament el que diuen és que som tots interdependents i que els altres som nosaltres mateixos i que, per tant, si estem ajudant als altres, això en realitat és d'enorme benefici per nosaltres mateixos.
And 129 is such beautiful conclusion, and he shows how we should think. And how we should understand everything.
I el 129 és una conclusió molt, molt maca en què explica com hauríem de pensar, com hauríem d'entendre-ho tot això.
So it says, whatever joy there is in this world, all comes from the desiring or wishing others to be happy.
I diu, qualsevol felicitat que hi hagi en aquest món, tota ella prové del desig de fer feliços als altres.
And whatever suffering there is in this world, all comes from desiring myself to be happy.
I qualsevol patiment que hi ha al món, tot ell sorgeix del desig de fer-nos feliços a nosaltres mateixos.
And then 130 is then showing the difference between samsaric beings and Buddhas.
I el vers 130 ensenya una mica la diferència entre els éssers samsàrics i els budes.
So samsaric beings work only for their own benefit, and Buddhas work only for the benefit of others.
Els éssers samsàrics treballen només per al seu propi benefici i els budes treballen per al benefici només dels altres.
And then the question is, of course, how do we then really practice it? I'm sorry that we have to gallop so fast through the whole text, but but it's also maybe good just to essentialize it. So verse 134 is then explaining how we can then practice, or how we shall practice it.
Llavors, com podem dur això a la pràctica? I diu que, perdoneu que hàgim d'anar tan ràpid, però potser està bé també per essencialitzar una mica totes aquestes estrofes. I a l'estrofa 134 explica precisament com hem de dur això a la pràctica.
There he's basically contemplating in 134, he's contemplating on what was said earlier. If all the suffering in the world come because of selfishness, then what does selfishness do good to me? Nothing.
I llavors el que diu, bàsicament contempla sobre el que s'ha dit abans, és a dir, que si tot el patiment és a causa de l'egocentrisme, quin benefici m'aporta l'egocentrisme? Cap ni un.
And 138 is saying that, we should do nothing for our own benefit. But we should use our whole being, all our talents, qualities, body parts, whatever, to be of service to others.
I llavors el vers 138 diu que no hauríem de fer res per al nostre propi benefici, que tot el nostre ésser hauria d'estar enfocat a fer servei als altres.
And if we are bodhisattvas, then it's incorrect, he is saying, to use anything what we have, let's say our intelligence, to harm others.
I si som bodhisattvas és incorrecte utilitzar qualsevol cosa que tinguem, com per exemple la intel·ligència, per fer mal als altres.
Like we could manipulate others, or we can build gas chambers, those things, like it's super intelligent. You don't need intelligence to do that, but it's so incorrect and so misplaced,
Llavors, podríem com manipular, podríem fer mal als altres i això en realitat no ens cal tanta intel·ligència per fer això, però és incorrecte fer-la servir en aquest sentit.
And I just think of Albert Einstein. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but he was the intelligent one building an atomic bomb, or sort of. And he was when he then heard how they want to use it, then he was totally against it. So I think that is how a bodhisattva should be. Yes, intelligent, but then of course not use that against somebody else.
I Einstein, i potser diu que ho està recordant malament, però creu que va ser part de la intel·ligència darrere de la construcció de la bomba atòmica, d'alguna manera, i quan va sentir com anaven a fer-la servir, llavors es va expressar clarament en contra, i que un bodhisattva hauria de ser una mica així, amb una gran intel·ligència, però en contra dels usos negatius, diguem.
And 139 is also expressing the same thing. So whatever we have, whatever talent, body parts, or whatever we do, we should always do it in the motivation and in this framework that this is helpful for others. Even if we eat, every bite we eat, we do it so that we can live longer, basically, and therefore we have more chance to help others.
I el 139 és el mateix, que sigui el que sigui que tinguem, sempre hauríem de fer el que fem dins del marc d'aquesta manera de pensar en què volem ser de benefici per als altres. Cada queixalada que fem, cada cosa que mengem, hauríem de fer-ho per viure més, per ser capaços d'ajudar més als altres durant més temps.
And then there's one long section, 15 verses, 15 verses from 140 onwards. And there are some specific antidotes. But so far, that was like a general understanding of the exchange. And now there are like some specific understanding of the exchange is explained.
I ara ve una secció una mica llarga, que són uns 15 versos, des del 140 endavant, amb els antídots específics. Fins ara ha fet una explicació general d'aquest intercanvi entre un mateix i els altres, i ara entren en les parts més específiques.
And so that is easy to understand, but it's basically we are really putting ourselves in the shoes of others, and then looking at us, at our original us.
I això és relativament fàcil d'entendre. Ens estem posant a la pell de l'altre i llavors mirant de nou, mirant-nos a nosaltres mateixos des d'allà.
So like, let's say I put myself in Berta's shoes, and she's looking at me and thinking, oh, Arne is inferior to me. And then I feel her pride and arrogance, you know, and then I know how that would feel to her when they look at me being inferior, or when she's looking at me being inferior.
Llavors, per exemple, diu, em podria posar a la pell de la Berta i veure l'Arne i imaginem que pensa que l'Arne és inferior i llavors sentiria aquell mateix orgull, aquella arrogància i entendria com és aquest sentiment.
And or she is perceiving me as somebody who's of equal status and equal whatever rank, and then she feels maybe competitive, you know, and so I put myself in her shoes, in her eyes, sort of, you know, and perceive her jealousy with me, you know.
I diu, si per exemple, llavors imaginem que ella m'està considerant com un igual i potser té un sentiment de competitivitat i em poso a la pell, a la seva pell i sento aquesta mateixa gelosia.
And then the third one is, of course, if she perceives me as superior, you know, then maybe she feels very jealous or threatened when she is looking at me. And so I try to feel that from her perspective towards me.
I la tercera seria si em percep com a superior, potser llavors se sent gelosa o en perill, diguem, sí. Així que intentem sentir d'aquesta manera el que ell està sentint cap a nosaltres.
And that is also in Sakya Pandita's clarifying the sage's intent. He's using exactly that, these three things, you know, like if she is perceiving me as lower, same, or higher, and then that I should be in her shoes and feel what she is feeling and what suffering is she feeling and how strange she is reacting towards me, and what that does to me, you know, all this. Shantideva thinks it's good to perceive it like that, and that will help our emotions to subside.
I també a Sakya Pandita, de fet, al clarificant el llegat del savi, es parlen exactament d'aquestes tres coses, dient que hauríem d'estar a la seva pell, sentir el que ell està sentint, quin tipus de patiment està sentint i també llavors entendre aquesta reacció estranya cap a mi, el que això ens fa a nosaltres i que està bé percebre-ho així i que això ajuda que les emocions passin.
And then from 155 onwards to 184, Shantideva is giving many instructions, like pith instructions, you know, what we should do.
I llavors, des del vers 155 fins al 184, Shantideva està donant moltes instruccions, petites instruccions com essencials sobre allò que hauríem de fer.
And first more gentle instructions and then more radical or severe instructions.
Primer unes instruccions més gentils i després més radicals o més severes.
So first one in 155 is if we know that we have done something negative towards others, you know, then we should apply these 4 powers of purification. I'm sure you know that from chapter 2, but also maybe from Bodhisattva practice.
I si sabem que hem fet alguna cosa negativa, llavors el que hauríem d'aplicar són els 4 poders de purificació, que això segurament ho coneixem del capítol 2 o també de la pràctica de Bodhisattva.
So like we acknowledge that we did some stupid thing, and regret it, that is the first. And then maybe we even we take a witness, you know, like visualizing our guru or being in front of somebody else. These are the first 2.
I, per exemple, el primer que hem de fer és acceptar que hem fet una cosa estúpida, arrepentir-nos d'això i llavors prendre un testimoni, com per exemple estar davant del nostre gurú o alguna figura important.
And then we apply the antidote. Let's say bodhicitta is always the opposite sort of whatever negative deed we did. That is number 3. And then number 4 is we promise or have determination that we never do these negative things again.
Llavors apliquem l'antídot. La bodhicitta sempre és allò que és oposat a l'acció negativa que acabem de fer, per exemple, i això és el número 3, i el quart és la determinació de no tornar a fer-ho mai més.
So these are like the 4 powers of purification as a very Buddhist fundamental principle.
I aquests són els 4 poders de purificació. Aquest és un principi fonamental budista.
Then the next verses talk about that we should be really determined to do the exchange of self and others, and that we understand that all the suffering we have or others have at the moment is because we have not done the exchange practice in the past.
I la següent estrofa parla de com hauríem d'estar realment determinats a dur a terme aquest intercanvi, entendre que tot aquest patiment és perquè no hem fet l'intercanvi en el passat, no ens hem intercanviat nosaltres mateixos pels altres.
And then he's coming back to this ovum and sperm thing, you know, in case we have doubt if we can really identify with others as ourselves, you know, then yes, remember you did that already with in your very beginning stage, you know, when your physical body was conceived or formed.
I llavors torna a la imatge aquesta de l'òvul i l'esperma, per si en algun cas dubtàvem de que ens poguéssim identificar amb els altres, ens recorda això, que al començament de les nostres vides, quan vam ser concebuts, ja passava que érem cossos diferents del nostre.
And yeah, just very small things, you know, like if others do a mistake, try to do it, try to transform it into a mistake that you have done, you know, or if I do a mistake, then that should not be hidden, sort of, but it should be openly admitted.
I si els altres fan un error, intentem transformar-lo en un error que hàgim fet nosaltres. I si som nosaltres qui hem fet aquest error, que no estigui amagat, sinó que l'admetem obertament.
And yeah, we should praise others, you know, and so that they become more famous and greater than ourselves, you know, those kind of things.
I hauríem de lloar els altres de manera que es facin més famosos i més importants que nosaltres mateixos.
And yeah, we should really like try to hide our qualities as good as possible.
I hauríem d'intentar amagar les nostres qualitats tant com sigui possible.
I think once in a teaching, that was super long ago, this was 95, Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche was praising Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, who was sitting there also, and he said, here, this guy, you know, Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, he has so many qualities, but he's hiding it. So his best quality is that he's even hiding all his qualities, that kind of thing.
I diu, això s'han recordat d'una cosa que fa molt de temps, diu que era potser l'any 95, que Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche estava en unes ensenyances i estava lloant a Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, que també estava assegut allà, dient, aquest senyor té tantes qualitats, però les amaga també, que potser la major de les seves qualitats és quan de capaç és d'amagar-les.
And then in 165, yeah, that is sort of the introduction to the Tonglen practice itself, where we then, and we find that in the Lojong teachings, you know, like 7 points of mind training there, it's more explicitly explained how we do the exchange, you know, when using the breath.
I això és una introducció al propi Tonglen que trobem de manera més clara en les ensenyances del Lojong, per exemple, els 7 punts de l'entrenament mental, de com duem a terme aquesta pràctica a través de la respiració.
I think here many of you guys have been in Asangavacha Rinpoche's teachings recently for the 7 point of mind training, so you sort of know what I'm referring to.
I diu que molts de nosaltres potser estàvem a les ensenyances d'Asangavacha Rinpoche sobre els 7 punts de l'entrenament mental, així que segurament tenim alguna idea del que està parlant.
But just to sum it up, that part, the practice is called Tonglen. I write it in the chat, and it means give and take, basically, or give and accept, something like that.
I diu que, per resumir, aquesta pràctica es diu Tonglen, i Tonglen vol dir donar i rebre, o donar i acceptar alguna cosa així.
And we combine it with the breath. So when we breathe out, we give our happiness. And if we breathe in, we take in the suffering of others.
I diu que ho combinem amb la respiració, en què en exhalar fem sortir la nostra felicitat i en inhalar absorbim el patiment dels altres.
That is really basically it. And we can do it like that general, but we can also do it very specific. For example, if we have a specific problem or if the other person has a specific problem.
I això és la manera com general d'entendre-ho, i ho podem fer així de general, però també podem fer-ho de manera molt més específica, com si l'altra persona té un problema específic o si nosaltres tenim un problema específic.
For example, if I have, I don't know, a lot of aggression or a lot of belly pain, then I can breathe in all the belly pain or all the aggression of others, and by that remove all their belly pain and all their aggression and take that onto me. And when I breathe out, I give them all the, let's say, patience, the opposite, or a lot of health, and a lot of happiness to them, and so that I continuously practice like that.
I diu que, per exemple, si estem plens d'agressivitat o tenim com un mal de panxa molt intens, el que podem fer és pensar en l'agressivitat i el mal de panxa de tots els éssers i absorbir-los cap a nosaltres, intentar portar cap a nosaltres tot el mal de panxa i l'agressivitat de tots els éssers, i en exhalar donar-los tota la paciència, la bona salut i la felicitat que puguem als altres.
Yeah, so we can use whatever problem or suffering we have, and then by breathing in, as I said, we can do it generally or specifically. By breathing in, then we take general suffering or specific suffering from other people, and also the causes of these sufferings, so that they will never have these sufferings again. And then instead we breathe out all the happiness and joy and so on.
I això ho podem utilitzar per qualsevol tipus de problema o patiment que tinguem, inhalant agafem tot el patiment general o específic dels altres i també les causes d'aquest patiment, de manera que mai tornin a tenir aquestes causes, i exhalem la nostra felicitat.
And we can also use it if we see that the other person has a specific problem. And I really like, from personal experience, that really works, like if you're next to somebody who's dying, and who's very agitated and afraid, you can breathe in their agitation and fear and panic, and breathe out the opposite, like happiness, calmness, easiness, relaxation, courage.
I això ho podem utilitzar també en casos molt específics. Ell diu que la seva experiència ha vist que realment això funciona. Si esteu al costat d'una persona que s'està morint, per exemple, el que podem fer és inhalar tota la seva agitació, la por, el pànic, i exhalar al contrari, la calma, la tranquil·litat, el coratge, la felicitat.
Another personal experience that I thought worked so well, I once had a semi-boss who was really so negative to me and angry and manipulative and so on. And then I did it too with her, and the Tonglen I did with her. And it worked, it also really changed her, that I was breathing in all the negativity and aggression she had, and insecurity, I guess, and yeah, I think on some level, she could maybe feel that I mean well, or that I'm sending her some good vibes or whatever, but it really changed the relation sort of with her and how she perceived me.
I també una altra com experiència personal, diu que en un moment tenia una cap de feina, que era una mica que s'enfadava fàcilment, que era una mica manipuladora i que va provar de fer aquest tonglen amb ella i que realment això la va canviar a ella, en què provava d'inhalar aquesta negativitat, aquesta agressió, aquesta inseguretat i creu que d'alguna manera, d'un cert nivell, ella potser va sentir que ell tenia bones intencions o que li estava enviant com bones vibracions o una cosa així i que realment això va canviar la relació i com ella el percebia ell.
And we should, and as I said, that is a mind training practice. So because it really helps us, because we are learning to accept suffering and difficulties, and we are happily taking it onto ourselves, at least mentally, from others. And we are letting go of our happiness and causes of happiness. So that's such a good mind training because, as I said, it goes directly against our usual way of perceiving others.
I això és una pràctica d'entrenament mental que realment ens ajuda a acceptar el patiment i les dificultats, perquè el que fem és portar-ho de manera joiosa a nosaltres mateixos. Deixem anar la felicitat i les causes de la felicitat i donem la felicitat i les causes de la felicitat. I això va directament en contra de la manera habitual que tenim de percebre els altres.
Okay, and then the more radical advice here by Shantideva, how to train our mind, or especially how to exchange ourselves with others, is then from the next verses onwards, which is like 116, 8, I think, onwards.
I després els consells com més típics respecte a com intercanviar-nos nosaltres i els altres és a partir del vers 168 cap endavant.
And so there, a point is always we have to practice like chapter 4 and 5. We have to be mindful, vigilant, alert, very aware of what is happening in our body and mind and speech. And then whenever we see some problem and there are then different problems explained, we should react immediately. That is always important, like this being fast, before they get big.
I aquí el que diu que és important és que, com dèiem en els capítols 4 i 5, hem de ser vigilants, hem d'estar alertes respecte al que pot estar passant en el nostre cos, paraula i ment i reaccionar de manera immediata. I això és molt important, que actuem ràpidament.
So whenever we see like a tiny selfish arrogance, we should destroy it immediately, for example.
I quan veiem com qualsevol petita arrogància, hauríem de destruir-la immediatament.
Or 170, whenever we see any selfish thought at all, just immediately cut that thought, don't nourish it, just don't go there.
I al vers 170, quan veiem qualsevol tipus de pensament egoista, l'hauríem de tallar immediatament, no l'hem d'alimentar, hem de tallar-lo i hem d'anar directes a fer això.
And the same is actually said in 172, that we understand, selfishness creates suffering, so therefore, yes, immediately destroy it whenever we see a teeny tiny selfish thought coming up. Like we can destroy it, or we can just focus on something else, like Bodhisattva or Avalokiteshvara mantra or whatever.
I quan entenem el vers 172 parla de com quan entenem que l'egoisme és el que ens porta al patiment, hem de veure que qualsevol tipus de petit pensament egoista que tinguem haurem de destruir-lo immediatament. I això en realitat podem anar a destruir-lo o simplement pensar en enfocar-nos en alguna altra cosa, com la bodhicitta o el mantra de Avalokiteshvara.
And then in 174, Shantideva is asking us not to be overly obsessed with our body. Don't have too much attachment. We also talked about that today already. Because it makes it hypersensitive again. We cannot bear the slightest suffering even.
I llavors Shantideva, al vers 174, ens demana de nou que no ens obsessionem amb el nostre cos perquè això ens durà a ser hipersensibles i a no ser capaços d'aguantar fins i tot el més petit dels patiments.
And I think classic example are, if we are so attached to our body, then the whole body becomes more touchy than a wound with pus,
I llavors l'exemple típic és si estem aferrats al nostre cos, llavors imaginem que el nostre cos s'omple de ferides amb pus.
Or another example is we become more irritable than ghosts.
O que ens tornem més irritables que els esperits.
Yeah, my example was always we are becoming more unstable than the Windows operating system, but I think nowadays it's quite good.
O ell deia que si fem això, si ens obsessionem d'aquesta manera, és com que acabem més inestables que el sistema operatiu de Windows, però diu que potser avui en dia ja s'ha solucionat una mica això.
Yeah, but I think the princess on the pea is the example that I use so often. So everything feels wrong and so intense, and you feel always like being at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people and so on. So that is really like the best cause for depression.
I diu, però en realitat el millor exemple potser és el de la princesa i el pèsol, en què tot sembla com molt malament, tot és molt intens, tenim la impressió que estem en el lloc equivocat, en el moment equivocat, envoltats de la gent equivocada. És aquest tipus de clima.
And then we should learn to say, I have enough, like this contentment, that is super important. And I think we talked about that already, that it's such a noble richness.
I el que hauríem d'aprendre és a dir prou. Hauríem d'aprendre aquest tipus d'insatisfacció, diguem. És molt important, és una qualitat, és una riquesa que és molt noble.
And if one needs, one should even look for situations where our own negative emotions are not arising.
I si ens cal, hauríem de buscar situacions on les nostres pròpies emocions negatives no sorgeixen.
And I think, that is in verse 177. And it basically means you should try to be around unattractive people also.
Aquest és el vers.
Desire is not coming up.
Aquest és el vers 177, que diu que en realitat també vol dir que no hauríem de provar d'estar envoltats de gent que no fos atractiva, de manera que no sorgís el desig.
Of course, there's no absolutely unattractive person out there, but it means for you, whatever you, like person or situation, find a situation where you are not getting angry and not too desireful, find people and situations.
I diu que, evidentment, no hi ha ningú que no sigui atractiu de manera absoluta, però vol dir que per nosaltres hem de trobar situacions en les que no estiguem ni enfadats ni desitjosos.
So therefore, contentment again is very important. And then verse 182 is saying, we should not freak out when our body is insulted or praised, because our body is not actually hearing it or understanding it anyway.
When our body is,
insulted or praised, when I say, Oscar, your ears are too big, or if I say, Oscar, your eyes are beautiful, you should remain in equanimity.
I diu al vers 182 que no hauríem d'espantar-nos quan el nostre cos és criticat o lloat, que no hauríem ara diu no tenir por si dic, Òscar, tens les orelles massa grans, o si diem tens els ulls massa bonics.
Because it's our mind, who was getting hurt actually, not our body. That is Shantideva's logic. So therefore, let them say about my body whatever they want, sort of, why should I even bother?
Our mind is getting.
So if I say something bad to your body or something good to your body, then actually it's only your mind that is suffering, because your body is not really understanding what I say. and so therefore it's just a mental thing how you react, so just stop it.
I diu que en realitat com és només la nostra ment que està patint, que si diem una cosa dolenta del cos, en realitat el que acaba patint és la ment, no té cap sentit que patim així i per tant simplement hauríem de parar.
Okay, and then 184, just in case we have forgotten that we have a precious human life. He's balancing it out a little bit, you know, how we should have a relationship with our body. It's 184.
I el vers 184, per si ens hem oblidat que teníem una preciosa vida humana, ho torna a dir en aquest vers.
So he's saying, therefore, in order to benefit all beings, I shall give up this body without any attachment.
I diu, i per tant, per beneficiar a tots els éssers sentents, abandonaré aquest cos per no estar aferrat a ell.
So that means, so give up the body here means like so we are not attached to the body and only use it for our own benefit, but we use it for the benefit of others.
I aquí abandonar el cos vol dir que ja no estem aferrats a ell, sí, i per tant que no l'utilitzem per al nostre propi benefici, sinó que l'enfoquem cap al benefici dels altres.
And then he's continuing, but although it may have many faults, you know what we have talked about earlier, I should look after it, the body, while experiencing the result of my previous actions. So just, so we should care of our body. That is the point here, you know.
I diu que fins i tot si el cos té moltes faltes, sí que l'hauríem de cuidar mentre experimentem els resultats de les nostres accions passades, hauríem de cuidar el nostre cos.
So and here then, all this organic food, yoga and whatever keeps our health intact, it prolongs our life is super important, of course.
I diu aquí potser té a veure tot el menjar ecològic, el ioga, el que sigui que ens mantingui la nostra salut intacta i allargui la nostra vida és molt important, evidentment.
And also Ayadeva in the 400 stanzas is talking about the body.
I també Aryadeva en les 400 estrofes parla del cos.
So he says, yes, it is an enemy if you are attached to it, you know, because then it brings a lot of suffering. But nevertheless, you have to look after it, you know.
I diu que sí, que és un enemic si estem aferrats a ell, però perquè ens comporta molt de patiment, però de totes maneres l'hem de cuidar.
Because if you live long and have a good Dharma practice, so many merits will be generated. That's sort of what he's saying.
I perquè diu que si vivim durant molt de temps i tenim una pràctica del Dharma, una bona pràctica del Dharma, es generaran moltíssims mèrits.
And one last quote to that. It is also said if we misuse our body, you know, like getting attached to it or even having aversion to it, of course, then the body is like a stone that is sinking in the ocean of samsara.
I diu una última citació, si maltractem el nostre cos, aferrant-nos a ell o sentint aversió cap a ell, el nostre cos serà com una pedra que fa que ens enfonsem a l'oceà de samsara.
But he says, if we use the body well, then it is like a boat that sails to liberation.
Però diu, si utilitzem el cos de manera correcta, serà com un vaixell que navega cap a la il·luminació.
So, and therefore, it is said the body is like a servant for good or bad, you know, up to you, how you use it, basically.
I per això es diu que el cos és com un servent, depèn de nosaltres si l'utilitzem cap a fins positius o negatius.
And then that's sort of it about the third part of practicing bodhicitta, meditation on relative bodhicitta. That is sort of the main part of chapter 8. And then the fourth part is suggesting to practice shamatha.
I això més o menys és aquesta tercera part sobre la bodhicitta relativa, que és la part principal del capítol 8, i llavors ve la quarta part en què parla de la pràctica de samatha.
And that is 800, of course not, 185 to 187, so the last 3 verses.
I això és des dels versos 185 al 187, és a dir, els últims 3 versos.
So 185 is saying, yeah, get yourself together, stop your samsaric behavior, but remember chapter 4 and 5 and overcome all obstacles to shamatha.
I diu, el 185 diu com que ens ordenem una mica per dins, que parem de ser aquests éssers samsàrics i de tenir aquests hàbits samsàrics, que ens en recordem dels capítols 4 i 5 i que superem tots els obstacles a través de samatha.
Yeah, and these obstacles to shamatha, that is like, you can find like 8 obstacles and 5 antidotes. That is in the teachings by Meister, like you find it in the text called Madhyanta Vibhanga and in many other meditation instructions.
I diu que aquests obstacles podem trobar el que es diu els 8 obstacles i els 5 antídots, que això està a les ensenyances de Maitreya en el
Madhyanta Vibhanga.
Madhyanta Vibhanga.
But like, for example, also in the commentaries, it says, like anger is of course an obstacle to shamatha. And then you have to understand the cause is because your mind is agitated because you dislike something very much. And therefore you can't have any discipline. And therefore you need the antidote, which is patience.
I evidentment la ira és un antídot a samatha i per tant el que hem de fer és entendre les causes, entendre que la ment està agitada perquè no ens agrada una cosa de manera intensa i llavors no podem tenir disciplina. El que hem d'aplicar és paciència.
Or doubt is also mentioned in the commentaries here as a problem to shamatha. And doubt, as we know, is like we have 2 minds, and we think, yeah, it could be like this or could be like that. We have an indecisive mind.
I també el dubte s'esmenta com a problema, descrivint-lo com el fet de tenir 2 ments, en què pensem que podria ser així o podria ser això, i és tenir aquesta ment indecisa.
And then the result of doubt is that we can't really relax or settle in equanimity, and therefore we have no calmness and no space for wisdom. That's what the commentaries say.
I el resultat del dubte és que no ens podem relaxar o establir en l'equanimitat, perquè no hi ha espai per la calma o per la saviesa. Això és el que diu.
And then, sorry, Leah, the antidote against doubt is remember Buddha nature, have confidence in Buddha nature.
I llavors l'antídot contra aquest dubte és la naturalesa búdica, és la confiança en la naturalesa búdica.
And this is just a nice word in Tibetan. This confidence means like Ning Ru in Tibetan. Ning Ru.
I llavors l'antídot per això és, o aquesta confiança és el que en tibetà es diu Ning Ru.
So Ru is bone and Ning is heart. So it's a heart bone. Maybe you have heard that from Milarepa's songs, but the heart bone, you need that strength in the heart, this confidence in Buddha nature.
Llavors potser ho hem sentit en alguna de les cançons de Milarepa on parla d'aquest com os del cor, en què hem de tenir aquest cor sòlid. Sí.
Yeah, it's like not solid, like rigid, of course, but the strength, the courage, the fearlessness.
No sòlid com una cosa rígida, sinó com la força que ve amb això, aquest coratge.
And then the next verse, 186, is basically put effort into shamatha, very easy.
I el vers següent, el 186, és bàsicament que posem esforç a samatha, és molt senzill.
And then the last verse of this chapter is, practice shamatha, because with shamatha you can make your mind more calm and clear. And that is the best foundation for doing vipassana, where then you can remove all the obscurations and negative emotions.
I llavors a l'últim vers, el 187, diu que practiquem samatha perquè la ment està llavors més calmada i més clara, i aquesta és la millor base per vipassana, quan som capaços d'erradicar o treure tots els enfosquiments.
So the classic example is shamatha is like if you have a bucket of water, what is dirty? Shamatha is if you just don't touch it, don't stir it up, but let it stay there for a couple of hours. Then all the dirt will naturally sediment and the water becomes calm and clear.
I l'exemple clàssic és si imaginem un cub d'aigua en què té aigua bruta, si no el toquem, si no el removem, si simplement el deixem reposar durant unes hores, aquesta brutícia naturalment s'establirà o caurà cap al fons del cubell i l'aigua de sobte quedarà clara i pura.
And that means, that temporarily our negative emotions are sort of subdued.
I això vol dir que de manera temporal les nostres emocions negatives queden subjugades o controlades.
But they can be stirred up at any moment. If you start stirring up the water or the mind, then they can come up again easily.
Però, evidentment, poden remoure's en qualsevol moment. Si comencem a remoure l'aigua o el que sigui, poden tornar a pujar fàcilment.
And so therefore we need something else, which is vipassana, where we see the true nature of things. And that is then taking out the sediment of the water, or uprooting the negative emotions.
I, per tant, necessitem alguna altra cosa més. I en aquest sentit és l'eina de vipassana, la veritable naturalesa, que vol dir quan traiem tot el que ha quedat, tota la brutícia que ha quedat al fons, i ens quedem amb l'aigua més pura.
Right, that is chapter 8. And just for the completion, maybe we just go briefly through chapter 9 and chapter 10, just a few minutes. So then we have talked about the whole thing from yesterday to today.
I diu, això ha estat el capítol 8, i diu que simplement per completar-ho passarem ràpidament pel capítol 9 i 10 i llavors parlarem de tot plegat des del que vam fer ahir fins ara.
So chapter 9 is then the wisdom, that is then the vipassana, where we see the true nature of things, and then we can uproot all obscurations and emotions.
I diu, el capítol 9 és la saviesa, i aquí és quan entra en joc vipassana, en què veiem la veritable naturalesa de les coses, més enllà de tot enfosquiment.
We will talk, of course, about chapter 9 in more detail at some point in May, I think, but just as a preview, or as I said, just as a conclusion here. Yes.
I parlarem del capítol 9 en més detall al maig, però com a conclusió ara simplement.
And so the wisdom chapter is then first establishing the view.
I el capítol sobre la saviesa tracta d'establir primer la visió.
And there the two truths are introduced, relative and absolute. Objections to these two truths are refuted. And by that, the Mahayana version of the two truths is established.
I es parla aquí de les dues veritats, s'introdueix el concepte de les dues veritats, llavors s'exposen objeccions a aquestes dues veritats, es refuten aquestes objeccions i, per tant, queda establerta la visió Mahayana.
So by that, the wisdom is established through the view.
I així la saviesa queda establerta a través de la visió.
And then the wisdom will be experienced through the meditation, and that is meditation on the two types of selflessness.
I llavors aquesta saviesa serà experimentada a través de la meditació. I aquesta és la meditació en els dos tipus de manca de jo inherent.
That means like selflessness of person and then selflessness of phenomena.
Com la manca de jo de nosaltres mateixos i la manca d'essència inherent dels fenòmens.
And then the wisdom will be refined through dispelling misconceptions, and for that we need reasonings.
I llavors la saviesa quedarà refinada quan apartarem o dissoldrem les visions incorrectes, i per això necessitem el raonament.
And then the last part of the wisdom chapter is that Shantideva is talking about the two main benefits of realizing emptiness.
I llavors l'última part d'aquest capítol és quan Shantideva parla de les dues maneres principals d'adonar-se de la manca d'essència o d'existència inherent.
And maybe that should always be explained actually in the beginning of the chapter 9, but doesn't matter. So the first benefit is that we don't have any dualistic mind anymore. Therefore, we don't have attachment to some things, and therefore no aversion to other things. And therefore, we are free of the 8 worldly dharmas.
Potser això s'hauria d'explicar al començament del capítol, però de totes maneres, aquí parla del primer benefici, que és que ja no tenim una ment dualista i, per tant, no tenim aferrament cap a algunes coses i aversió cap a algunes altres, i per tant estem lliures dels 8 dharmes mundans.
And then the second benefit of wisdom is that we have effortlessly, we have unconditioned great compassion.
I el segon benefici és que sense esforç tenim una gran compassió incondicionada.
So that is quite cool. Like if we are free of the 8 worldly dharmas, we are sort of free of suffering, we are free of samsara. And because of this effortless, unconditioned compassion, we free others from samsara. So that is the benefit of wisdom. So that is what we want.
I això en realitat és molt guai, diu, perquè si estem lliures dels 8 dharmes mundans, estem lliures del patiment de samsara, i gràcies a això, a través d'aquesta compassió incondicionada, podem beneficiar els altres. I aquest és el benefici de la saviesa, i això és el que volem.
And then chapter 10, the last one, but really not the least one, there's so much teaching in that, is the chapter on dedication.
I el capítol 10, que és l'últim, però realment no és menys important, perquè hi ha moltíssimes ensenyances al respecte, és el capítol de la dedicació.
And so first we dedicate our virtue in order to bring happiness and benefit for all sentient beings.
I primer dediquem la nostra virtut per portar la felicitat i el benefici a tots els éssers.
And then, we contemplate really like in detail about general suffering of sentient beings, but also then very detailed, in what realm, what suffering is happening. And so we dedicate our virtue to liberate beings from those suffering states.
I contemplem de manera general, però també de manera molt detallada el patiment de cadascun dels éssers sentents, i pensem en cadascun dels regnes, quin tipus de patiment estan experimentant, i així fem la dedicació per alliberar cadascun d'aquests patiments.
And then also we dedicate the virtue so that we, the dedicator, or dedicatress, I don't know, attain perfect enlightenment.
I també dediquem la virtut perquè nosaltres mateixos, aquell qui dedica, aconseguim la il·luminació perfecta.
So that is sort of the first part of the dedication, where we dedicate our virtue for these goals, and for others, and then secondly, that we dedicate it so that we can ourselves attain Buddhahood, and by that perform enlightened activities again for others, of course.
Llavors aquesta és la primera part de dedicació, en què dediquem tots els mèrits perquè siguin de benefici per als altres i que ells s'alliberin, però també perquè nosaltres mateixos aconseguim l'alliberació de manera que puguem beneficiar els altres.
And then comes the third dedication, and that is regarding the longevity of Buddha Dharma.
Llavors ve la tercera dedicació, que té a veure amb el fet de la longevitat del Buddha Dharma.
And so we wish that the Dharma is preserved and that the Dharma is propagated, and has really a long life, as long as beings need it.
En què volem que el Bodhidharma es preservi i que sigui propagat i per tant que es propagui i per tant desitgem una llarga vida al Dharma.
And so that the Dharma stays long, so that that the Dharma can fulfill the twofold benefit, like liberating others and ourselves, like temporarily and long-termly.
I llavors diu que el Dharma pot complir el doble benefici, que vol dir alliberar-nos a nosaltres i alliberar els altres i a nosaltres de manera temporal i més a llarg termini.
And then the very last verse then of the 10th chapter is then a homage that Shantideva is paying to remember the kindness of his guru, which is Manjughosha or Manjushri.
I llavors l'últim vers del capítol 10 és una mena d'homenatge per recordar-se de l'amabilitat o per recordar l'amabilitat del seu guru, que és Manjughosha o Manjushri.
And I just show you the last picture here from a book that I was involved in for children, and we used Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche's face for Manjushri. So that is then the auspicious conclusion, because Manjushri was one of the main yidams of Shantideva.
I diu que ara ens ensenya una pàgina d'un llibre en el que va col·laborar, en què es veu la imatge de Manjushri amb la cara de Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche, i diu que potser, això en el text és una conclusió auspiciosa perquè Manjushri era un dels yidams principals de Shantideva.
And that's it.
I això és tot.
Any questions?
Alguna pregunta?
Hi, Arne. Thank you for the teachings.
Sí.
Tinc una pregunta que és del primer dia, que és com parlava sobre aspirar, i tenia el dubte de que si podries parlar una mica de si hem de tenir alguna cosa en compte a l'hora d'aspirar, perquè si veig que tinc l'hàbit que sovint no mobilitzo, no poso res en concret quan aspiro, llavors si hem de regular alguna forma d'aspirar, si hem de tenir alguna cosa en compte i quina petjada kàrmica té això, si aspirem molt i no concretem res.
He's asking about the teachings in the first day about aspiration.
Yes. They always freeze when they ask questions. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think we lost them. Louis, yes, this is the English session with this time's the Catalan translation. Maybe Emilia, you have a question while we are waiting? I saw your hand up some point.
Yeah, Arne, when looking to help others, so to ease their suffering, but this help, it relates to helping them with virtuous actions. Wouldn't it make sense to help, to know that they are suffering because they want to do something which is actually non-virtuous, but helping them so they feel happy? I don't think it makes sense.
Sorry, I didn't get that at all. Can you say it again?
If I know, well, I'm going to put on the extreme, okay? If I know that there is a group of people and they really want to kill a pig because they feel like they want to eat the pig's meat, and which means if I were to help them killing the pig, give them a knife, they would feel happy with that. So in that way, I would be helping them to feel happy, but with something which is non-virtuous. So I think the virtues and non-virtues, shouldn't that be related as well when one is deciding if it helps or not?
Yes. Yeah. Making others happy doesn't mean does not mean always giving them what they want, but maybe sometimes what they need. And of course, I would not help Hitler, to kill more people. Of course, I would make Hitler happy maybe, but the suffering is much bigger. So therefore, as a Bodhisattva, never do that, always see where is more happiness for more people for longer time, and compared to the suffering that should be hopefully for few people for short time, and if that ratio is very good, the long-term happiness for many people, and more profound happiness, then if that is bigger than the suffering that you create, then that is a good thing. But just making one person happy, like Hitler, and to kill like 1 million people, that is of course very bad ratio. And of course, don't do that. And
when you mention about putting ourselves into other shoes, and I think to me, I could only really do that if it's like takes one to know one. If I have been myself in situations of anger and envy and all of it, so I can recognize it on the other one. Yes. So it's to be able to recognize, but then I don't know if I would be able to really do the proper reading of what that person is feeling at that moment, superior, inferior, or neutral in relation to me, because it's, my mind, I can just be doing a whole wrong interpretation.
Yes, of course. But yeah, so the self experience that one have had in the past definitely helps, so that you really know what they're feeling. But if you're not sure what they're feeling, we can talk with them also, and see what is their problem. Okay, I think Kasavirupa is back. Thank you, Emilia, for filling the gap and more. I didn't get the question. I heard it in Catalan, I think, but not in English. I don't even know who asked that. Okay.
Yeah, so he was asking about, he says he has the habit of aspiring, but wonders whether there's something in particular that he could take into account, because usually what happens to him is that he doesn't really put anything in motion. So he's wondering what karmic impact does it have to aspire, but then not really do anything afterwards, not make it like a complete action.
Sorry, I couldn't. The audio was difficult for me. It was not so clear as before. Raphael, did you get it? Can you say it? Maybe no, because I thought you could have understood this Catalan already. You could write it, or you could try again, because your voice is really a little bit distorted.
He will ask it when you come in March. Yeah, that's okay.
I don't even understand that.
I can try, Arne, I remember vaguely the question of Pau, so maybe it's not, he will ask when you come in May, okay. Maybe that's better.
Are you sure? Let's try, Raphael. What did you understand so far?
If I remember correctly, Pau was talking about aspiration and how he tries to aspire, but sometimes is not so focused on the object of aspiration. So I think he was talking about whether there is, what is the karmic imprint of aspiring without having a clear object, or without a clear focus. What? how to properly aspire, let's say. I think, and Jana was helping me complete the question.
Okay, if that is the question, but yes, as somebody wrote, we can discuss that also in person in May. Okay, I get also private messages, how to properly aspire without completion. Okay, now I'm getting mixed messages. So, yes, yeah, so I don't know really what to answer because I don't really get the question, but
maybe you can hear me better now. No?
Yeah, maybe we do it then, but the motivation, I mean, all the four immeasurables is a good motivation training. And yeah, if we contemplate on cause and effect and that everybody wants to be free of suffering and we want to develop happiness in the world, that is definitely what then strengthens our bodhisattva motivation to work for all sentient beings.
Si volem, no sé, si volem estar feliços al món, això és el que realment fa forta la nostra bodhicitta i les nostres ganes de beneficiar tots els éssers intents.
Now I could hear you very well, Oscar.
Oh, that's good news.
Can you try again the question?
Yeah, okay. So he was wondering whether there's something that he could take into account, because one of his doubts is that it often happens to him that he aspires, but he doesn't actually do anything afterwards.
Okay.
He doesn't make it concrete. So he's wondering what is the karmic impact of that?
Oh, that is sweet. I mean, the motivation is super important. So I'm rejoicing that he has already that aspiration and motivation. Yes, that is definitely good.
I diu que la motivació és superimportant, llavors que s'engauva de que hi hagi aquesta bona motivació i aquesta aspiració, això està molt bé.
But as Shantideva said in the first chapter, we have to have both types of bodhisattva, like the aspiration and then the application.
Com ha dit Shantideva en el primer capítol, hem de tenir els dos tipus de bodhicitta, la d'aspiració i la que s'endinsa.
Yeah, application. So the example is, if I want to visit you guys in Khyentse-Linie, that is my wish, my aspiration, and that is good. But if I don't apply it, I will never arrive in Khyentse-Linie because I will just not do enough steps or flights or whatever.
I en diu que si, per exemple, ell volgués venir a Khyentse-Linie, això és una aspiració que està molt bé, però que si no ho aplica mai arribarà realment, perquè no emprendrà cap tipus de passa cap a arribar aquí.
Usually I think if the aspiration is strong enough, then I think you have the urge to apply it, no? Should be.
I diu, però de fet, normalment, si l'aspiració és suficientment potent, llavors tenim la urgència d'aplicar-la, no?
If I really want to visit Khyentse-Linie and the Sangha, then yes, normally if I make that my priority, my conduct, my actions will follow my mind or my wish.
I diu que si realment volem visitar Khyentse-Linie i la Sangha, llavors si fem que això sigui una prioritat, la nostra conducta i les nostres accions seguiran naturalment a la nostra ment o al nostre desig.
But nevertheless, that was not so much the question, but the question was more, if we have that aspiration, but then don't act, what does that mean karmically? Karmically, if we look into Abhidharma Kosha, then we have like four factors that are important to make a karma complete.
Llavors, de totes maneres, això potser no tenia tant a veure amb la pregunta, sinó que la pregunta potser anava més cap a preguntar si tenim una aspiració però no actuem respecte a aquesta aspiració, què vol dir això de manera kàrmica? Llavors, si mirem a l'Abhidharma Kosha, veiem que hi ha 4 factors que fan que un karma sigui complet.
And motivation is definitely the biggest thing, but then other things are also important to make it complete.
I llavors la motivació és potser el factor més important, però també hi ha altres factors que ajuden a que sigui un karma complet.
You talked about it yesterday, like in the verses 40 to 50 or something in chapter 7. So motivation is the first thing. And then, the action itself is, of course, important to do.
Llavors, potser ho vam parlar ahir, potser en els versos 40-50 del capítol 7, la motivació és important, però també llavors el tipus d'acció que estem duent a terme.
And then on top of that, we need somebody who we are doing it to, like either we beat somebody or we kiss somebody or we give a present to somebody. So there needs to be somebody.
I llavors, a part d'això, també ha d'haver-hi algú a qui li fem això, algú a qui paguem o algú a qui li fem un petó o algú a qui fem un regal. Ha d'haver-hi algú altre.
And so that was number 3. And then number 4 is, the feeling afterwards, if we regret or rejoice what we have done.
I aquesta era la número 3. I la quarta és el sentiment que ens queda després, si ens en penedim o si ens en gaudem.
So therefore, karmically speaking, if I have all 4, like I wish to make Oscar a coffee, and I make the coffee and Oscar gets the coffee and drinking the coffee and I rejoice afterwards, then the positive karma is complete. Great positive karma imprinted.
I diu, llavors, kàrmicament, si parlem en termes de kàrmics, si tenim aquests 4 factors, per exemple, desitgem fer-li un cafè a l'Òscar, fem el cafè, ell se'l veu i hi ha un sentiment positiu després, queda tot complet. Això és un bon karma positiu.
But if I only wish to give an avocado to Berta, she will, that's it, and I don't do more. That is karmically is like, it's like, of course, not complete, but it leaves a positive imprint because I have the good motivation, but still it's far away from being a complete good karma.
Però al revés, en un altre exemple, si simplement vull donar-li un albocat a la Berta, ella potser diu, i això és tot, i llavors kàrmicament no està complet. Hi ha una empremta positiva perquè hi ha una motivació, una bona motivació, però està lluny d'estar completa aquesta acció i que quedi tot com un karma positiu.
And that is only both cases just only for my sake, how my karma is accumulated, how complete or not. But then, of course, it makes a big difference. Oscar is getting the coffee and enjoying it. So let's say I make him happy. And Berta, I leave starving. So therefore, that is a big difference, how other people are benefited from my motivation or not. And I think if we focus more on how it is for other people, then maybe it helps us to do the actions also.
I llavors en els dos casos, però això ho estem pensant en termes del que és per nosaltres mateixos, si és un karma que ha quedat complet o no per nosaltres mateixos. Però en aquests exemples que estava dient, l'Òscar té un cafè i està content, però a la Berta deixo que mori de gana. Llavors això és una gran diferència. És a dir, veure com els altres se'n poden beneficiar veus la diferència entre una cosa i l'altra. I si ens enfoquem més en això, potser ens ajuda això a dur a terme l'acció.
Yeah, but that will really come also a little bit in the 9th chapter, so let's discuss more about that in person.
Però això també apareixerà més en el capítol 9, així que parlem-ne més quan estigui allà en persona.
Because we have sort of exactly 7:00 p.m.
Perquè més o menys són exactament les 7:00 de la tarda.
In Central Europe, let's say.
A Europa Central, diguem.
So therefore, I think I should let you go, guys, everyone. And maybe we dedicate a little bit. Because, that is the 10th chapter also. And that is definitely a generosity, referring now to Emilia's thing. Maybe we should not give a knife to a murderer, but if we give merit to all sentient beings, that is definitely good.
I Diu que ara el que farem potser és simplement fer una petita dedicació i que en aquest cas la generositat, en termes del que parlava la Emília, no és donar un ganivet a un assassí, sinó que són mèrits dels éssers intents, així que això és, sens dubte, una cosa positiva.
So, let's do it. By this merit, having attained omniscience and defeated the enemy of wrongdoing, may I free all beings from the ocean of existence with its tumultuous waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Just as the heroic Manjushri who knows everything as it is, and as Samantabhadra likewise did too, just so to follow all of them and train myself, I perfectly dedicate these meritorious actions. May the precious Supreme Bodhisattva arise in those in whom it has not arisen. Having arisen, may it not diminish, but ever expand more and more. As long as space remains, and as long as the world remains, may I too remain to elevate the suffering of the world. This is from the 10th chapter, by the way. May I, in each and every lifetime, carry the weight of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. And if I cannot bear that weight, at the very least, may be born with the burden of thinking that the Buddha Dharma could win.
Thank you very much, Arne, and very looking forward to meeting you here. So please don't be late. It's in May. You have time to organize. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, and thank you everybody who joined here. Yeah, thank you, Khyentse for organizing it, and thank you all who are in the other Zoom rooms. Very good to see you. The only pity is that I couldn't see like those in Khyentse like properly because you are hiding in the dark.
Yes.
But I can.
So sorry.
No, don't worry. It was nice to see you as a group also. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Just the last thing. Everyone who's here, you'll be very welcome to join the teachings that Arne will be giving here on the 9th chapter to finish the Bodhicaryavatara in person, and that will take place from the 13th to 15th May. And it will be spring here, so everything will be precious. You will all be very welcome if you want to join. Thank you, Arne.
And it will also be streamed, I think. Yeah, and thank you, Berta and Oscar for translating. And yes, see you all.
Take care.
Be happy and healthy.
Yes, same. Thank you.
Bye-bye.